Week 33, traders. I believe this is my moment. I believe this is right before everything starts going our way. I know everyone out there is believing that we're at the worst spot. I can't believe he's still in it. What is he thinking? I hear it. I'm talking to people about it. I love it. My goal is to open up the conversation about the stock market and see if I can find other people with the same interests so we can team up and actually talk this stuff over. This isn't about who's better. I got the better trade. I'm not here to insult other people's thoughts. I'm here just to open up the conversation. And if you noticed, I think maybe I've been doing this 20 weeks now. I have not once talked about money. The trade is not about money. Money is risk. That's your problem, not mine. If you're going to be so foolish to put everything in on one trade, your psychology is going to ruin it. You're going to be so concerned. I know people have done this. Guess who's got two thumbs and have made this mistake multiple times? Yep, the two people sitting next to me and me. Yeah. I am going to make the claim now, since I think this is my moment. I'm not trading the numbers, the news. I'm trading the psychology. I believe millions of other people are using these trend lines to decide on when to buy and when to sell. I think that's the most important question. My entire life, I know I annoyed my dad to death about questions, and we'll just cost factor in. Well, when do you buy? When do you sell? Watch earnings. When do you buy? When do you sell? There's news about the union laborers and they're going on strike. When do I buy? When do I sell? And that question never gets answered. That's what I wanted to change. Paid someone for their information, just sat and listened. Took me a decade now to kind of put this shit together. The point I'm trying to make is that there are things out there that we have not been taught due to the fact that they call this speculation. Everything you are going to point at me and give me your reasons for are also speculation. But for some reason, they've got rid of the charts, and I've just recently noticed it on TV now where they're coming in with it. But for decades, oh, you can't show this is speculating. Explain to me how you're going to tell future earnings. It drives me nuts. Who knows this? Who knows what's going to happen in the future? And that's what they tell me everything's based on. It's crazy. Everything is speculation. Why can't I draw a line over 20 years and every time it hits this line, the stochastics tell me it's oversold, all of a sudden I see this huge rally? That's psychology. That's people. I don't care what the numbers were. This isn't a coincidence. Okay, now that I've got my little bitch fit out of the way, and please excuse the audio. I'm going to go pick up a new mic. I know it sounds like crap. There is one thing I want to say out there to one gentleman. We're going to call him Al. Al is a friend of mine from work, and this guy's got a set of titanium, platinum, chrome covered set of balls, and this guy is brave. This guy believed in me on December when we went down and hit that 665 area in AG, and I came within 2 cents of the bounce, and it's like, man, what the hell is this about? And for months now, I have failed him in my communication, and I think I went wrong with this music BS. I should have been talking and explaining things thoroughly, and I apologize that. I apologize, Al, that you've lost 10 years off your life with this, but let me explain a little bit better here. Okay, so to this person we're going to call Al. Al, I'm going to tell you the same thing I would tell my mom, my dad, my brother, the closest people in my life. I don't see any reason in treating other people differently. I have not lied once. I am dead serious about the way I feel about where these stocks and indexes are headed. One day I might knew something. I knew it, but at the time I can never say that I know. I called the sell-off in the US dollar in December, and I strongly believe we are headed there. I have some charts I'm going to show you from 1975 on what happens with energy, oil stocks, and silver, and how they benefit from a sell-off in the US dollar. And I have got much more proof that we are literally on the verge of benefiting off this. I don't believe we can get any closer, and I see it in the patterns with AG, the silver futures, the oil futures. Let's dive into this, and along the way, I'm going to try and calm your nerves because you deserve it. We're close, buddy. We are so close to the promised land. God, I can't wait. There's the monthly chart on AG. You can see that I've taken, since 2009, I'm taking the oversold areas while the stochastics are underneath 20. I've circled them here. I'm going to draw a trend line over the past 8 years. This is something that I can absolutely say will give buyers more confidence about stepping into this trade rather than sellers. That's one of my goals. I can't figure out earnings. I can't figure out these union strikes. All this stuff clouds my head. I don't trust any of these analysts. Yahoo and everyone else is not a company that will hire the best person all the time. There's always a small percentage. I'm not going to check their biography or who these people are. I'd have to trust them to really think that they know it. And I just posted that video on Cramer. He trusted someone and went on national TV and said the dollar's going to rally 6 weeks ago, and it's fallen flat. I can't figure out a reason to trust these people. I'm going to trust myself. For 8 years, buyers have stepped in on this trend line, and you're looking at the proof right there. There's nothing you need to go search for it. There it is. I think it's going to happen a third time. I do not think this is a coincidence. There is one more thing that I want to point out at this chart. I want you to look at the last candlestick and the stem. We have a closing price so far of this month at 652. You can see the stem, which has reached down, which was from earlier on those bad earnings call. The immediate knee-jerk reaction to sell-off, which also happened to fall on the daily trend line in the oversold area, which leads me to believe a downward wedge pattern. Check FinViz for these patterns if you want to educate yourself on it. But look at that stem. We are now technically oversold. The stochastics are at 14.68. It is oversold. And the stem is now starting to be created, which means buyers are stepping back in. And we're approximately halfway done with the month. I believe that stem is going to get longer and longer while the body of the candlestick is going to start to go up. Only time will tell, but I just want you to take note of that and watch as this month continues. AG weekly chart. I'm going to first take note of where the valleys are, the oversold areas. You might take note that that's not always the easiest thing to do. You could see at the end of 2014, we had an oversold area, which I'm trying to match up with the monthly also. And you can see in late 2015, we dipped lower. But you're trying to line these oversold areas up so that they make sense. We do not have an oversold area in the weekly right now. The monthly and the daily are, which makes me incredibly happy. The weekly, not so much. It may be a little bit more fuzzy. I do not believe that it's something we need to worry about. Like I said, I might know it one day, but right now I do not know. Although I do believe we are going to be headed in the right direction. I think the daily chart might give us a better clue of that. Let's take a look at the daily. Here is the daily chart on AG. Let's draw in our oversold levels. We'll draw in our overbought areas. Let's get our trend lines in here. And what I see is another downward wedge pattern that is a bullish pattern. Downward wedges break to the upside. They consolidate. They're going back and forth. I do not believe that this is a coincidence. I've witnessed this many times before in the past 10 years. I'm going to have an example after we're done here, show you Sprint from last year, a 250% gain that Jim Cramer said was not good. Suck it, Jim. I believe we are in this pattern. We're going to break out. I'm noticing the US dollar falling, selling off. It was my reason from the start to go silver and energy, oil. And I see it happening before my eyes. That sell-off the other week, it looked horrible. While you're trying to make a decision on that day, you can't do it. The psychology is all wrong. But now, since you take a breath, you look at it, I recognize the pattern. I know what the pattern means in the long term, and I believe we're going to break up due to my reasons from the very start, the US dollar. Check FinViz. I'll write this down for you guys later on. All right, here's Sprint from last year. I'm not saying put your money in this. We're not talking about this. I just want to show you an example of a downward wedge pattern. This was last year. I remember telling my dad right near the edge of that pattern in 2016, or maybe it was April, I believe. April, right when we reached that oversold level. I was like, Dad, the telecom sector, the index looks like it's in a bullish pattern. I'm looking at Sprint, and I read this one story that said they only lost 1% of their customers from the previous year. And I know I've been saying don't read the news, don't believe anything. But when I read that, I'm like, well, if everyone's going to say earnings, and they only lost 1% of their customers, earnings got to do pretty decent. Jim Cramer, when I got home a couple days later, Sprint can never support these kind of values in their stock. I'm looking at their balance sheet. That's what he uses. So be it. It'll never support it. I can proof positive that he was wrong. The expert on national TV that everyone wants to listen to and believe, take a look at Sprint now for yourself. It's up near $8 the other day when I checked. That's a 250% gain from April to the $9 mark, which I did pick out last year. I'm not saying it's going to be positive for AG, but it damn sure looks close, don't it? When you're looking for proof, when you're looking for reasons, hell. Silver futures monthly chart. It may be difficult once again to pick out exactly what's going on here, but the black trend lines from 2008, you can see we have a couple options here: the longer dashed line, the short dashed line, the solid black line, all black ones. I see higher lows. This is exactly what I want to see. The stochastics have not reached the oversold level. Nothing to be all worked up about. I've noticed buyers starting to step into that last candlestick. May be difficult to see. I'm sure it'll be more apparent in the weekly. I like what I see here. I see buying starting to happen. We have a lot of support on those trend lines. The reason I have so many there, it's because there's a lot of red candlesticks in each oversold area. So I put 3 of them due to the fact that you don't know. You might knew, but you don't know. So we're on top of all those options. I feel great about this. I'm waiting for the key to happen, the US dollar, and silver is sitting on all options of support. We're working our way up to the moving averages. And once we get over that little black trend line, look out, baby. Full bull market. Let's do this. Silver futures weekly chart. You can see those dashed trend lines from 2008. the black solid line underneath us. I've got all my oversold areas drawn in on those trend lines. Let's take a look at the previous overbought areas, which aren't, it's not a long distance from where we are right now. I believe that's about 21% higher, and we are not overbought right now. You can see the stochastics, they're just hanging in the middle. That last candlestick is awesome. We're right below the 50 EMA. Buyers are, as soon as we get over that moving average and we get over that short black angled trend line, buyers are going to target the previous highs. That's how it works. That's their target. We got the 200 EMA up above us, the red one at 1937. That is also another target. We're getting closer to it. Buyers will buy till they hit that target. Then you're going to see a little bit confusion. We want to get on top of that 200. We want to break to new highs. This is what you're watching for. And from what I see, things are increasing to our benefit. I believe this is going to just continue. I believe the silver buyers are stepping in. Let's take a look at the daily. Silver futures daily chart. Now this is where we get to the nitty gritty. I noticed this stands out to me. Take it with a grain of salt if you believe it or not. In June, the left shoulder. Then I see in July the head, the lows. Now I see in August the right shoulder being put in. Looks like an inverted head and shoulders pattern to me. I've said it in the past. I'm saying it again. I just noticed it. What I really took note of was last week I told you that the markets do not have to do anything with the stochastics. Buyers do not have to wait for the oversold area. Sellers do not have to wait for the overbought area. And what this tells me from last week where the arrow is pointing is that buyers did not wait for the oversold level. They see this coming. That's a big pop in 5 days. Now we're pushing up. On Friday, we closed above Thursday's close by 1 penny, and it doesn't matter how small it is. That's showing me strength. We pushed right up against that trend line, and buyers stepped out, took a profit for the week. I think what I usually see here is that we come back down and we retest the 20 and the 50 EMA. So if things drop here or go sideways in AG, don't sweat it. It's the futures pulling back. Find support on the 20 and the 50. I think it's very possible that that's going to happen. You wait it out, no knee-jerk reactions, and then we see the next push up. One last thing I wanted to point out with this chart, we are not overbought right now. The stochastics are at 67.44. They need to be over 80 to be overbought. And you can see that we're not that far away. I believe it was 71 cents away from the last overbought area. The 200 EMA is right there. It's the next target for buyers. We're not that far off. Just a little bit more patience. I know it's killing a couple of you, and we've had a couple stomach churning moments here. But I see strength. I see we're not that far away from just a big pop. I know it's right around the corner. I'm not staring at futures that are dying here. I see an accumulative momentum to the upside, and it's very close. Here's DO's monthly chart. I don't have the lines drawn in. I'm trying to save myself a little bit of time here, but I had the downward wedge pattern on this, and you might possibly be able to pick that out by now. We are technically oversold, very oversold. It doesn't look good. I understand that, but remember, when things are at their worst, when your stomach is churning with regret and doubt, that's when you buy. That's when things are at their best to buy. They're at their lowest. DO is not a small company. I believe it's going to weather the storm, so I pick stocks that are going to weather the storm in the bad times, and then they're a good company, so people are going to buy into them in the end. The falling dollar will give energy, beneficial buyers coming in, and I see that in the futures right now. I have Absolutely. I cannot wait to get to the crude oil futures. That's when everything's going to start making sense. And I can't wait to sum up everything. Okay, let's take a look at the weekly. DO weekly chart. We went down and hit the pivot point support line number 2. We have exited the oversold area. This is where you're going to expect more buyers stepping in than sellers due to that it's oversold. It's been a long time. 2013 was the last time that buyers have tried to take the value of the stock back up to the 200 exponential moving average, which is a target for buyers. It's like a magnet for the price. You're going to notice that this price wants to hang around, retest the 200, find support on the 200. Over time, you'll take note of this. You can still see that downward wedge pattern. Let's take a look at the daily chart. DO's daily chart since 2013. I just wanted to post this. Let's get a big picture view. You always want to keep the big picture in mind. Let's zoom up to the recent area here in August, and we are technically oversold now on the daily chart. And from what I see in July, or right before July here, June, we now have a higher low. There's only 2 points that I can connect from June to here in August, but it's given me confidence now. We're going to need a third point to put a trend line in, but this is the start. I see it happen. I see the buyer stepping into the futures. I see support. Gosh, I can't wait to get to the futures. I'm starting to see everything coming together. This is a long-term view. I'm expecting a long-term move. Stuff like this, sure, you're going to sometimes get that exact point, but it's not the goal of the game here. It's just making sure you get positioned in the correct spot for a long-term move. Take the oars out of the water, sit back, take a deep breath, enjoy the scenery, let it happen. No knee-jerk reactions to stuff. Where's support? I see a higher low. I'll repeat that, higher lows. Good, looking good. Crude monthly chart, crude oil monthly chart. You can see that the stochastics are starting to turn up in the middle. Just like the silver futures. Buyers aren't waiting. They notice the bounce on that lower blue trend line and the upward channel pattern. It looks good. Let's head to the weekly. Crude oil futures weekly chart. Same pattern as last week. I believe we're going to be in here for a while. I see 1, 2, 3. We're on the third hit on the upward channel, which is a bearish pattern, but we are in the bullish part of that pattern with nice targets up above us. This is coming off the monthly inverted head and shoulders pattern where I believe we just finished putting the right shoulder in. I see that the value has moved above the 20 and the 50 EMA. Looks possibly as if we might have closed on that upper trend line, showing support. Stochastics are not overbought. They're nowhere near it. The most recent overbought highs aren't that far away. I think I said 21% last week. I said last week we might go sideways here for a little bit, showing support, and I think that's what I see. I see what I am expected to see, and I'm happy with that right now. It's patience sometimes. This is good. Oil futures daily chart, and this is the one I couldn't wait to get to. Look at that last candlestick. Look at the stem underneath the 200 EMA, right near that trend line. Look at how throughout the day the price fell underneath the 20 EMA, came close to 50, and then at the end of the day, buyers stepped all the way back in to drive that price right up above. And just 5 days ago, I was telling you that chances are we're going to go sideways, and we're going to wait for the moving averages to catch back up because this is part of the process. It's part of the pattern, part of proving support. And when I'm looking at that, I don't know what anyone else is thinking right now. I was ready to hit the launch button last week. I still think the same thing. Hit the launch button. This is going to be a big rocket. There are plenty of targets up above us that aren't that far away. Over the past 10 years, with all my failures, from what I've learned, this is showing me strength. Said 6 weeks ago, I see weakness in the dollar. I am seeing strength in crude oil futures here. So close. I cannot express in words how close we are. Well, dollar monthly chart, the key to this trade. I see over the long term since 1985 a downward channel. Downward channels are bullish patterns, but right now we are in a bearish part of the pattern. The stochastics are not oversold. 26.41. Still room to move over the long term. The monthly's the long-term chart. I've got the upward rising wedge pattern since 2008. That is a bearish pattern to give me more confidence about the bearish move that I have been watching. Relative strength falling to 43. That's good news for us. The MACD indicator is now turned down close to the divergence line. When it's below, I expect a longer term trend to the downside. Every indication I have here looks great. Lost support on the 20 EMA. I think we closed above the 50 on this by a couple pennies, but we are not oversold. I'm expecting more selling to happen. I still have that green trend line in my target. I believe we're going there. Let's take a look at the weekly. US dollar weekly chart. You can see we have now closed below the 200 EMA. Yeah, thank God. We've lost support on the most important moving average, the 200. That's the one that sucks the price either from below or from above. The price wants to trade around the 200. I'm looking at the stochastics. They are embedded in the oversold area, going back and forth while never exiting the oversold area. Great news. It's telling me, I'm reading it, it doesn't have words, but I'm looking at it, that sellers are in charge. They are selling and selling and selling from the beginning of 2017. 6-7 weeks ago, Jim Cramer, oh, we're going to rally. That's what the Fibonacci Queen said. Take a look for yourself. I am so confident, such a strong believer that relative strength at 27 and dropping. MACD indicator, which I just talked about in the monthly, it is below the divergence line. It's pointed straight down. They're not, oh my gosh, it's selling. The 20-year-old yellow horizontal support resistance line. It looks as if we lost that. I'm telling you, that is substantial in what we are trying to do. A support resistance for 20 years means something. The dollar daily chart, the one I've been waiting for. Just earlier in this video, I was telling you about stochastics and how they don't have to do anything. They don't have to go oversold or overbought. Right here in the middle, you see sellers taking charge. I'm taking a look at the candlesticks. Last week I said, oh, I'm expecting some selling, but there's a possibility that we go up and retest that 20 EMA. And that's what happened. Look at the stems on those candlesticks. That's telling me sellers at the end of the day. As soon as they went up and they tagged that line, that was their target. Okay, Jim, let's start to sell again. What's Jose doing? He's selling. Okay, we're selling. I see it 1, 2, 3 days in a row. It's not a coincidence. Stochastics turning down, relative strength dropping, MACD indicator below the divergence line again, rounding off and probably going to be heading up. Probably, I believe it is. And the 20-year horizontal yellow support resistance line, we closed below it. It is substantial. It changes the psychology of everyone. No buyer is going to come in here and go, oh, we lost that? Well, maybe I should buy. I mean, we're now below it. It's turning red. It's headed down. Buyers don't like this. This is not the time they step in, and I don't see any buying here. I'm going to make the claim that the US dollar is going to sell off. Ooh. Okay, let's sum things up here. From the beginning, I said the key to this trade was the US dollar. My opinion, I'm 100% on my opinion. I am fully convinced. I am 100% in this trade. I will not exit. I see things headed my way. My confidence is growing by the week. My failure has been communicating this, I think, because it's scary. You're watching the value of your stock going down, but what I've learned over the years is that the pattern, the long-term pattern, is telling me that things are about to change because of the psychology and targets for the buyers and sellers. Millions of people are using this, and the problem with using this is being right, getting it right. You can see things, you'll be able to make out trend lines, but if you miss something, you didn't put it in the right spot, you're going to screw things up. But there are many parts to this trade. The sell-off in the US dollar, indications that the trend's about to change in the futures of the silver and oil, which throughout history or for a long time have had an inverse effect with each other. So many clues. From what I've learned, these clues are headed in the direction I've wanted them to head in, even though they are not completely showing us that at the moment. I've talked to you guys about opening up the conversation about this. Money never has to be part of the conversation. It's not part of it. We'll raise our risk and letting people know about stuff. So just don't talk about it. We can talk about stocks. We can talk about where buyers and sellers are going to step in. Lately, my conversations, the 7 months, I have got nothing but negativity, and I am feeding on it. My family members, my friends from work, I got this one buddy, we're going back and forth about AGs, telling me about the union laborers and how they're going on strike and then the earnings. And I love our conversations because I know at some point I'm going to have my day. I think my moment's near, and I'm trying to bring him to the dark side. And he will like it because I will prove it. It's so damn close. And Al, my stomach's churned. This guy I'm calling Al, my stomach's churned for many months trying to, how am I going to communicate with this guy, man? How am I going to tell him things are okay? I've tried to communicate as best I could in this video. I've tried my hardest. I see the trend in the US dollar. I see things starting to find support in silver and oil futures. And the patience I've received from you, man, thank God, because I know this is taking 10 years off your life. Al, whoever you are. We're coming around the corner, man. Coming around the corner. And in the last minute here, this is where I'm making my claim, and this may not make a few people happy, but it's the honest God truth. I had Sprint in there from last year that I hope is going to settle your nerves, because I don't expect people to believe it until it's been proven. I'm making the claim that I am trading the psychology of the people who are trading the market. I'm trying to guess when buyers and sellers are more likely to jump in. I have had much better luck with trading stocks this way than trying to figure out earnings, trying to figure out these news stories, listening to analysts who, they're not people you should be listening to. I'm making the claim that I'm buying in the oversold areas and I'm selling in the overbought areas, buying on weakness, selling on strength. And if you are sick to your stomach at the moment because you think things are at their weakest, that's the strategy. Just so you know, in case you haven't noticed, I'm early on everything. I'm too excited. I can't control my emotions probably on that. But this is what I'm telling you. Things look bad. I've watched these patterns for 10 years now. Oh, and FinViz. Okay. I'm also going to put this. Remember, FinViz is a automated, no hands-on humans drawing lines, just calculated by computer. So just keep that in mind.